So the Montreal Canadiens go into Washington at 3 a.m., set up for a game at 7 p.m., and for 2 periods, they look like the better team and it looked like everything was hunky-dory. Then the third period rolled around, the Canadiens ran out of gas, and the Capitals managed to come away with a 3-2 overtime win versus the Habs. Next up for the Habs, Buffalo, but before all that, let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Costa here from PuckTalk Montreal on this January 13th edition of the postgame show where the Montreal Canadiens leave Washington licking their wounds after a 3-2 overtime loss versus the Caps. Now, granted, the Canadiens did get 3 out of a possible 4 points in their back-to-back situation, which is not too shabby, but at the same time, they had a possibility of getting all 4. Just ran out of gas a little bit and had a few mistakes along the way. But before we get to all that, just a reminder for all of you out there who weren't already aware. On Fridays at 8 p.m., PuckTalk Montreal goes live, where I sit here, talk about current events, preview Saturday night's game, and of course, I also end up taking your questions in the live chat. It's a fun time had by all. 8 p.m. sharp on Friday nights. Don't you dare miss it. I'll be here. I'd like you to be here too. Also, one other thing I want to remind you about, of course, is make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, hit the notification bell for all the latest and greatest from the channel. Now, let's take a look at this hockey game. And I'm going to preface this first by saying there are certain parts I may have missed because my daughter has been in the hospital all day. Nothing major, a little bit of abdominal pain. May very well be appendicitis or a gallbladder or something like that. We don't know. She's staying overnight. But at the end of the day, I managed to watch most of the game while I was at the hospital. And here I am doing the podcast for you. As I watched this hockey game, one thing became abundantly clear to me. And that was that the top line isn't working, period. They're just not generating the same chances they did. And that's got to change. But before we talk about all that, let's take a look at the game highlights as we always do. And it starts with, of course, an addition back in the lineup. And that is Josh Anderson. Anderson returns from injury and makes an impact immediately. At 8:14 of the first, he scores shorthanded, his 10th goal of the season. A beautiful rip, blocker side on Logan Thompson, making it 1-0 for the Habs. Looks great, right? Great shot, great release, great goal. Fast forward to the second period, and a player who's been much maligned of late by everybody, not only in Montreal, but outside of Montreal, Brendan Gallagher, he gets on the scoreboard. Set up by his partner in crime, Philip Danault, from behind the goal line. He gets a pass from Bolduc out to Gallagher, who rips it home, glove side this time on Logan Thompson, and that makes it 2-0 for the Habs. That's how it stayed through 2 periods of play. And in those 2 periods, the Montreal Canadiens outshot the Capitals by a very slim margin, 20-17. But if you watch the game, it looked like Montreal was dominating play. A lot of the shots in the first from the Washington Capitals were from the perimeter, but a couple of good scoring chances, Sam Montembeault making the saves. We get into the third period, and I'm going to mention a name here that nobody ever hears from the Caps, Ethan Frank. Who? Yes, Ethan Frank. The same Ethan Frank who has his skates in the American Hockey League Hall of Fame for the fastest lap at the skills competition in hockey history. I'd have to look it up. I don't know what it is, but I know his skates are in there. And speaking of skates, as you watch this goal, tell me whether or not this looks like a kicking motion to you from Frank. And I'm not trying to be petty here, but he kicks at the puck with his foot and knocks it upwards into the net. Now, granted, he wasn't motioning the puck towards the net. I get it. But the rule doesn't say kicking towards the net. It says distinct kicking motion. Do you think maybe that should have been reviewed? No? I don't know. Put it in the comments. To me, it looks like a kicking motion. He kicked at the puck, changed the direction of it. It wasn't a redirect where he just turned his skate. It was a kick. I don't know why they allowed the goal. That's just a question I have. Really didn't get any answers from anybody during the broadcast. Doesn't help me at all. I'm wondering still. Now, I'm going to ask a couple of people around the league, shouldn't that have been a kicking motion? We'll wait and see. Anyway, that made it 2-1, and it started the momentum train going for the Capitals. The Capitals dominated the third in shots, outshooting Montreal 15-5 in the third period, really taking it to the Montreal Canadiens. But it took pulling the goaltender for a shot to come in off the wing, off the stick of Sandin, that's right onto Frank's stick, into the top corner. Another one of those deflections from the high slot that's very difficult for a goalie to stop. That made it 2-2 with just under 2 minutes left in the period, and we went to overtime. In overtime, Nick Suzuki took a penalty, uncharacteristically tripping one of the Capitals players, and the Canadiens actually killed off the penalty in overtime, and most of that was due to the goaltending of Sam Montembeault. Then, on the ensuing face-off, Juraj Slafkovsky decides to fade away from the front of the net and allow Connor McMichael to get a rebound in front. Why he backed away, McMichael puts it home, gets the overtime winner, but why he backed away and he left McMichael open at the side of the goal next to Monty is completely beyond me. Did he expect the Canadiens to get control of the puck? They didn't. There's no reason to jump the play that deep in your zone at all. If you were up by the blue line and the Canadiens got possession, yes, jump the zone. Try to get a step on the defenseman. I don't care. But when you're down low in a 3-on-3 where you're absolutely playing man-to-man, Uri, you stay with that guy no matter what happens. That's the game winner. That's all she wrote. The Canadiens come away with 1 point instead of 2. They were just 39 seconds away from going to a shootout, and we know that the Canadiens are quite good at shootouts as well. It is what it is, right? But now I want to get to my coach's report, because there are a few things in this game that I didn't like and a few things that that pissed me off, and some of it didn't even happen on the ice. It happened on the air, and I'm going to start with that. As a lot of you have followed me over the years, you know I'm very superstitious. There are certain things you don't do. One thing that you don't do is call me during a hockey game. That's a no-no. My entire family knows that, brothers and sisters, everybody. The puck's on the ice, you do not call. You call during the intermission or you call after the game, but never during. You call it what it is. My daughter did that tonight, but hey, certain circumstances were a little bit different tonight, but I digress. But the one thing that got to me as well, one of the other superstitions that I have, is in a game where a goaltender is playing well, you can mention it a couple of times on a broadcast, but never during gameplay. You don't. Guy makes a save, you say, "Oh, what a great save by Sam Montembeault." Leave it alone. Don't start going off. What a game by Monty. He's been so good. All that does is it gets the hockey gods to look down and pull the old Galima Shakti Day and put the jinx on Montembeault. What happens? A little bit of a loose rebound in overtime. McMichael standing at the side of the net alone because Uri decided to go to sleep. The Canadiens lose the game. And Monty, well, despite all his heroics, especially during the penalty kill in that overtime period, I mean, it is what it is, right? There is no way, shape, or form here that I am blaming Sam Montembeault for anything that went on in this hockey game. But broadcasters, there's two things you never do. When a goaltender's got a shutout happening, right, during the game, don't say the word. You zip it. You stop talking about the goaltender altogether. You could say, Monty's having a great night. Let's see if he keeps it going. Once. You don't dwell on it. I listen to TSN 690 as I'm in the car coming back from the hospital. Victor Finley's talking about it. I get home, Brian Mutrick and Frankie Corrado are talking about it. What happens? The overtime winner. I'm just a superstitious guy that way. I am, as are most hockey players. My goalie gear always went on in the same order. My players' gear always went on in the same order. And I never stepped on the ice with my right foot. It was just one of those superstitions I had, as well as wearing the number 93 when I was a player. Beyond that, everything else could go. But I'm a superstitious person as well when it comes to watching games and listening to them. And I don't think broadcasters should dwell that much on, a performance of a goaltender until the game is done, because I'm a firm believer, as stupid as it might sound to everybody, I am a firm believer that the hockey gods listen to everybody, and when you talk too much about one player, he ends up getting a little bit of karma. That's kind of what happened to Montembeault tonight. But that being said, and I know a lot of you out there are laughing at me, so please, laugh it up. This is the fourth game in a row that Sam Montembeault has played extremely well. And for all that, we got to say, you know what? Well done, Mr. Montembeault. Coming through half a season almost where you couldn't play to the level that you expected, it's a long road to get back to the goalie you were last season, earning a Four Nations face-off roster spot, getting your team into the playoffs, all of that. And so when you lose that game for a prolonged period of time, getting it back, especially when you're missing confidence, is a hard thing to do. So you got to give Sam Montembeault a ton of credit, not only for getting part of his game back, but for also being able to focus on what he needed to fix and stop listening to some of the detractors out there who were saying that his game was done. I never said that. What I said was his goalie coach needed to wake up, and both of them did. Most of this work was done by Marco Marciano. Eric Raymond recently working with him when he got back to the NHL level, but nothing major there. But as things move forward, I believe Monty is going to really grab onto his number one spot again. That doesn't mean that's going to be for a prolonged period of time. And it doesn't mean it's going to be to the end of the season. There's one thing that we know. There are teams right now that are looking for goaltending. Ottawa just signed James Reimer to a contract. Yes, that James Reimer. Optimus Rhyme, who was supposed to be the greatest goaltender in Toronto Maple Leafs history. Signed to a one-year contract just the other day in the absence of Linus Ullmark. We know that Jordan Binnington and Jim Montgomery aren't getting along, and he's going to be leaving, and St. Louis is going to be looking for goaltending, despite the fact that Hoffer's done a good job. We know that Vancouver is missing Thatcher Demko, and they need a little bit of goaltending depth. There's a few possibilities out there in a market that needs goaltenders. When you've got three that are playing very well, one of them has to go. It's obviously not going to be Jacob Fowler. It's going to be between Montembeault and Dobish. And that's all she wrote. Now, when you look at this game, one thing for sure is certain. As I mentioned in my report, it's going to be very important to get secondary scoring. That's kind of all we got in this hockey game, right? Not very many good chances for Suzuki, Caulfield, Demidov, a couple of good looks for Slavkovsky. Texier with nowhere to be found. And as I mentioned, Texier, yesterday's game, he got a couple of points, right? And that's fine. But when I said during the podcast that he was invisible, don't tell me that secondary assists make you visible. All right? He got a secondary assist on a great play by Nick Suzuki to get the puck over to Carrier. And I forget which other goal he got an assist on. It was later in the game. But again, a secondary assist. He wasn't the guy who propagated the play, right? He was just there moving the puck to his teammate, not really trying to set up a play. His teammate making the play to get the goal. So when I say that Texier is invisible, it's not because he's getting points, because a goalie can get a point for making a save and having the puck go down the ice, and then one pass and they score. Doesn't mean that the goalie was anywhere near the play. It just means he was one of the guys to touch the puck before the puck went into the net. Simple premise, right? Texier, since his 6-point performance, I haven't been impressed. And that's not because he's French, people. It's because I'm just not impressed. The same goes for, when you're looking at Zach Bolduc. Although Bolduc did get a point tonight, the play was made by Phil Danault. Bolduc got the puck out of the corner to Danault. Danault spotted Gallagher in the slot. Gallagher getting into position for a one-timer. Danault to Gallagher, puck in the net. All Bolduc did was separate man from puck. It's still an important part of the game. But beyond that, he didn't really do much. So, when we talk about these guys and we say they're invisible, it's because they're not creating offense. It's not because they're not out there working. Don't misconstrue what I'm trying to say when it comes to the report, right? And when I talk about players. Guys like Brendan Gallagher who go out there and work their ass off every game but can't contribute, they're not invisible, but they're not contributing. It's a different methodology, right? But when it comes to guys that are on the ice and you literally don't see, then there's a problem. Got to give a props to Arbor Xhekaj. Had a much better game tonight versus what he had the other night. And got to give props to Marty St. Louis for putting him in the lineup and taking Caden Gooley out, which really surprised me. Now, whether Gooley aggravated something or not, I don't know. It didn't look like he did at the end of the game last night, but Struble draws in, Xhekaj stays, and not only that, during the game, I forget who the player was as I look back. Hang on a second, where are we here? Dylan McGrath took a pot shot at Struble as he was down on one knee and just punched him in the face for no good reason as he was watching the play down the ice. And then Xhekaj came in to defend Struble. Struble looked like he was in a little bit of distress. Got propped pretty good with a blindsided punch. Now, the McGrath Xhekaj fight wasn't anything to write home about, right? They were clutching and grabbing for most of it, but good on Xhekaj in defending his man. And, he just came back out and continued playing afterwards in the third period. But overall, a pretty good game for Xhekaj. Corrected his errors, as I expected. Another guy who played well was Struble. You take a look at the Habs defense, it's not as bad as it has been in the last couple of games. They played very well. Not only contributing a lot of goals the other night offensively, but also playing well defensively over the last little stretch. Granted, there are some hiccups. Nobody's going to say it's perfect, but it's better. And I don't think any of us can complain about that if they're not allowing as many goals as they did before. 2 versus Detroit, despite the fact the Canadiens couldn't score. 3 the other night versus Vancouver. 3 tonight in a little bit of extra time. It's not as bad as it has been. So good on the Canadiens defense for being better, learning from their mistakes, and moving forward. Because all of them are starting to contribute now as we move forward. And that's going to be an important key as this team moves forward. Other things that I saw in this game, including the 5-on-3 power play, or lack thereof power play. The Canadiens get a 5-on-3. Number one, during that whole sequence, when the Canadiens had the puck and the penalty, the referee had his arm in the air. For almost 30 seconds, they didn't give the puck to the Washington Capitals. Can somebody please explain why? Instead of prolonging the 5-on-3, they just kept on the puck outside of the perimeter and tried to look for a shot. Puck ended up going down the ice, touched by Washington. Here we go. A minute 3 or whatever it was at 5-on-3. Marty calls his timeout, as most good coaches do, draws up a play, and the Canadiens do absolutely nothing at 5-on-3. When I say nothing, I mean nothing. They didn't even get a good look on goal. So explain to me how that happens. Because as far as I can tell, at 5-on-3, you have 2 guys that aren't being covered. How do you not get one of them open? The power play, after all, the whole idea behind it is to create small area odd man situations, whether they're 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, or what have you, especially when it's 5-on-3. The 3-on-2 is a possibility, or even a 3-on-1 for that matter. But that didn't happen. Instead, the Canadiens kept the puck on the perimeter looking for the perfect shot. I have been coaching hockey for the better part of 25 years. I've been involved in hockey, right? 25, 30 years. And I played for the better part of 15. And I'm going to say this unequivocally. There's no such thing as the perfect shot. Never has been, never will be. Okay? The only perfect shot is when a goaltender gives you this much space over his shoulder and you put it into the top corner of the net. That is what I call a perfect shot. There is no such thing as a perfect shot on the power play. It doesn't exist. Because you're not going to have that opportunity on the power play to get that little piece of space where you can put the puck in. Those only come once, maybe in a lifetime, for every player in the National Hockey League. Oftentimes, not even that. What you need to do on the power play is generate shots on goal and look for second chance opportunities if and when they present themselves. The Canadiens don't do that. At 5-on-3, the one thing that you know you can do as a team is clog the front of the net, because most teams play an inverted triangle where there's only one guy in front of the goal. And if you put two guys in front of the net, if you're the team on offense, then you force them to drop another guy down low, leaving only one guy up top to cover three. There's your 3-on-1. But no, we can't think that way if you're the Canadiens, right? No, we have to keep the puck on the perimeter. We have to look for the one-timer so that it goes in the net without any effort. There's no guarantee that it won't or it will. You need to create offense every way possible. On a 2-on-1, you try to go cross ice. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Texier took advantage of a chance that didn't. Put it top corner when he got his hat-trick goal. The second goal in the game where he got a hat-trick. You take a look at, 2-on-1s where passes go across for one-timers and into the net. We see that very often. Saw it the other day with Oliver Kapanen. But to expect the perfect goal on the power play every time you're out there at 5-on-3 is a ridiculous thought for anybody. And trust me, when I tell you this, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, there's no way in hell Marty St. Louis is telling the guys, take your shot, find your shot, don't shoot if you don't see it. Or don't shoot if you don't have a clean shot at the goal. That's never going to come out of Marty St. Louis' mouth. He never did it as a player. He certainly won't do it as a coach. So all this is in the mindset of the players, where they know they have time with the puck, they know they have the perimeter to themselves, and they try to move the puck around with a relatively good speed to be able to try to open up seams and create that perfect one-time shot opportunity. Stop. Just stop. Clap it on goal, get guys to the net, force them to defend, man. It's a simple concept, but at 5-on-3, for some reason, the Canadiens just turn off the switch and they can't score. It drives me bonkers. And I know, I just told you how to fix it, right? What to do. When the opposing team has two guys in front of the net and one guy up top in the regular triangle when they're defending the 5-on-3, then your job is easy. Get two guys in front of the net, force the two guys to get in there and cover them, and have the one guy trying to pivot between three players. Simple. When it's inverted, again, put two guys in front of the net, force the other team to have to send somebody down low. It's simple. It's been simple since the dawn of time. Why they don't do it? Totally beyond me. I'm not going to be overly pissed off here. It just, these little things that the Canadiens do wrong drive me nuts because they keep making the same mistakes. And as a coach, when you see these things, you address them, and then you wait for the players to do what you're asking them, right? Corrective action, corrective measure, video, practice, whatever it is, and you let the guys see what you're visualizing as a coach, and you move forward from there. But for some reason, the players just, it doesn't translate. And I don't get why. The message has to be getting across because on 5-on-4, they're doing exactly what they should be doing at 5-on-3. Traffic in front, shooting on goal, trying to look for second chance opportunities. What makes it so different at 5-on-3? It's completely beyond me. I really don't know what to say about it anymore. So now the Canadiens come out of this game versus the Capitals, still in third place in the Atlantic Division, 1 point back of the Detroit Red Wings with one game in hand now on Detroit. Tampa, though, has 2 games in hand on everybody. So right now they're at the top of the division with 61 points. And so the Habs, they are where they are right now, third in the division. And they're going to Buffalo to play the Sabres on... When are they playing the Sabres? Is it on Thursday night. There you go. Forgot what day it was for a minute. But at the end of it all, right, that Sabres game, just as important as any other game. It's a chance at 2 points that they should really get. And keep in mind that the Canadiens, right, after that game in Buffalo, will be once again traveling to Ottawa to take on the Ottawa Senators. So 4 points available in the Atlantic Division, Really important to try to create that space between all the other guys because the Atlantic, after all, is really tight. But we'll preview the Buffalo game tomorrow night. And we'll look forward to PuckTalk Montreal live on Friday to preview the Ottawa game. But for now, as I mentioned, the Canadiens come away with 1 point in a 3-2 loss versus the Washington Capitals. Hope you enjoyed that game because for long stints, it was really entertaining. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow night.